people homeless. A wave of water rushed through at least 4 suburbs, sweeping away cars and damaging buildings.
3 days of steady rain and then a torrential downpour was just too much for the city of Wollongong.
I've never seen rain like this ever before.
One man was killed when his car was swept into a swollen creek. Others had to be rescued from their homes as a wall of water rushed through the streets.
And the next minute, it was just right through the house, and I opened the front door and that was it. It just came in.
This mudslide almost claimed the lives of 4 girls.
The car started to roll. The water, I couldn't, so I just jumped out. I haven't,
So what happened to the car?
The car's gone, I don't know.
Little was spared: a shopping centre under 2 metres of water, a collapsed building, and a bottle shop almost destroyed.
Just incredible, just flowing through like a torrent.
All rail lines and roads into and out of Wollongong were closed for most of the night, sparking traffic chaos.
For commuters trying to get back to Wollongong, it was a long and anxious wait, worried about loved ones left at home.
No, nobody's told us anything as yet.
Hundreds of SES crews will help with the clean-up. The damage bills expected to run into the millions. Lyndall Davies, 10 News.
And
last night, the coastal New South Wales city was left isolated with all major roads and rail lines cut. One man died in the flooding and motorists on one highway were forced to run from a mudslide which engulfed their vehicles. The area received 200 millimetres of rain in just 12 hours.
Hundreds of emergency workers began descending on Wollongong last night, directing the thousands of commuters trying to get home and helping residents trapped in their houses. Heavy rains caused creeks to swell, prompting flash floods and mudslides. Cars were swept away by the raging torrents and left as twisted wreckage. Many commuters were unable to get home, stranded for hours in the pouring rain and treacherous flooding.
I just came back here to see if those guys were okay back there, and then they said they were stuck, and then the next thing we knew we were stuck as well.
Or holed up at the Encoded RSL on the outskirts of Sydney, unable to get any closer to Wollongong. In Wollongong itself, it wasn't just homes that were under siege. Shops, businesses and pubs went under, the water inflicting substantial damage.
There wasn't much we can do, just all of a sudden down it came.
At one local shopping centre, the water reached as high as 1 metre and left chaos in its wake. More than 400 SES volunteers are now in Wollongong and the surrounding area, working with the fire brigade and other emergency services on the massive clean-up. In northern Wollongong, one of the worst hit areas, a rapidly rising creek fed by the torrential rains caught everyone off guard. Residents of this street were trapped as the water overran their homes, one woman panicking as she became stuck with her children.
She got 3 kids inside and she broke the window, go out and get cut on her hand and go up the roof.
New South Wales Premier Bob Carr has declared the area a natural disaster zone and has been inspecting the damage as work continues on restoring services and opening roads. Julia Lim, ABC News.
Johnny, thanks for joining us, Mr. Jones. At the peak of the storm, Wollongong was virtually an island, was it?
Yes, that's correct. The roads in the Wollongong area were virtually turned into rivers.
And what's the situation at the moment, Gary?
Currently down there we have 150 people who have been evacuated and they will be out of their homes for some time. We have 400 volunteers from the New South Wales State Emergency Service and Rural Fire Service working with New South Wales Fire Brigades in order to do the clean-up.
Gary, do I take it that the ferocity of this downpour took everyone by surprise?
Yes, this was quite an intense east coast low, and it did put a lot of rain on the area in a very short time, and I'm quite sure that we didn't expect it to come down quite this hard.
Did anything exacerbate the flooding though? Wollongong does get heavy rain at times.
I think the main cause was the amount of rain in such a short period, and you must remember we've had considerable rain earlier, and therefore the ground was fully saturated, and there was not a lot of soaking in.
We mentioned before about the major road and rail links being closed. What's the state of the rail link at the moment to Wollongong?
The rail link is still closed, and as you can probably see behind me, the buses at Waterfall Station being used to transport passengers south.
Just finally, how long before buildings and services are back to some sort of normality?
The State Emergency Service Command Centre in Wollongong anticipates about another 48 hours for our immediate work, and then, as you can appreciate, it'll be some time for the recovery process to be fully completed.
All right, Gary Jones of the New South Wales Emergency Services, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Hit, some suburbs receiving half their annual rainfall in just 24 hours.
300 millimetres of rain, 300 emergency calls and 37 injuries in just 3 hours.
I've never seen rain like this ever before.
One man was killed when his car was swept into a swollen creek. Others had to be rescued from their homes as a wall of water rushed through the streets.
And the next minute, it was just right through the house, and I opened the front door and that was it. It just came in.
At one stage, more than 140 calls for help were still unanswered. Emergency services stretched to the limit. This mudslide almost claimed the lives of 4 girls.
The car started to roll. The water, I couldn't, so I just jumped out. I haven't, didn't.
So what happened to the car?
The car's gone, I don't know.
Little was spared. A shopping centre under 2 metres of water, a collapsed building, a bottle shop wrecked, and 200 houses damaged, 20 beyond repair.
Just incredible, it's just flowing through like a torrent.
All rail lines and roads in and out of Wollongong were closed for most of the night, sparking traffic chaos and a gridlock that lasted 5 hours.
For commuters trying to get back to Wollongong, it was a long and anxious wait, worried about loved ones left at home.
No, nobody's told us anything as yet.
174 families had to be evacuated to centres around Wollongong, left to sit out the rain, wondering if their homes would still be there in the morning. Lyndall Davies, 10 News.
It's been a heartbreaking day for the Illawarra. Its residents have started a clean-up that's expected to last for days. The final damage bill running into the millions of dollars.
The water carried all before it, rushing through the village of Ferry Meadow. Awnings came down and cars piled up in non-stop torrential rain. There were tears and heartache as battlers took in the mess, tried to save personal possessions.
My unit is not insured, so I've lost everything. And it's the only thing I've had in my life, that and my son, mate.
Premier Carr declared the saturated south coast a natural disaster.
That means that we pick up, without question, without argument, the cost of putting in new carpets, floor covering, and the basic equipment of a household, and giving families in distress the money they need, and giving them food.
As for improving local drainage,
the SES has told me that this is, in their view, a 1 in 300 year event.
At its peak, this creek rose 6 metres, swirling into homes, upending furniture.
This blood-stained curtain gives you an idea of just how lucky one family was. A mother of 3 young children smashed the window because they were swimming around inside, unable to get out. When the water level dropped, firefighters got to the mother and rushed to the hospital.
And were you very frightened or were you brave?
Frightened.
We felt so helpless because they were screaming and we couldn't do nothing. And there at a couple of stages we just broke down because we couldn't do nothing.
In nearby Wombara, one family lost their caravan when half their backyard was swept away. And more drama this afternoon in Kirraville and Balgownie as creeks became rivers rushing between houses and trapping residents with cars up to their windows in mud. Harry Potter, 10 News.
And the rain caused its fair share of problems around Sydney. A teenage girl survived after being swept away in a flood-swollen river. The 13-year-old beat the odds thanks to her will to live and the efforts of rescuers.
13-year-old Tennille Bolte is alive today because of a burning desire to live and plenty of luck.
I thought that I could have a chance of dying, but I didn't want to die and I wasn't going to give up.
Tennille's daredevil nature got her into big trouble late yesterday during a game with friends on a rope swing over the flooded Nepean River.
She jumped and she got to the middle of the river and her hand slipped and she fell in.
People on the riverbank could only watch helplessly as Tennille was tossed about in the torrent.
Laying on the back, face out in the water, saying help, help, that's about it.
Paramedic Rhys Dyer finally reached Tennille by risking his own life and diving in.
We worked to try and keep ourselves afloat and she was absolutely exhausted.
That stage, the water just took your breath away as soon as you jumped in.
But the terrifying power of the river in full flood soon dragged Tennille and her rescuer apart. By this time, the Care Flight helicopter, flying dangerously low and into the path of oncoming power lines, was her only hope. Rescuer Ian Spencer knew a life was in his hands.
At the third attempt, I thought if I don't get hold of this girl now, I knew the pilot's plan was to abort the mission because of the power lines.
And I thought if he doesn't get to me soon, I'm just going to pass out because I was really tired.
Tennille travelled an incredible 7 kilometres downstream and over 3 weirs before being rescued. She hopes to be home tonight, nursing scratches and bruising after her near-death experience. Tim Collins, 10 News.
Joining us now from the Weather Bureau is senior forecaster Peter Dunda. Peter, what weather patterns brought about this deluge which has swept away parts of northern Wollongong?
Well, for the past few days we've had a very strong and persistent high pressure cell to the south of the continent. That's been directing very moist southeasterly airstream onto the New South Wales coast that's been producing general widespread rainfall. Over the last 24 hours that's been combined with a fairly intense low pressure system right near the coast, near Wollongong, and also an upper disturbance which has approached from western New South Wales, all to produce a very unstable weather pattern over the Wollongong and Sydney area.
Given that, is there any way of giving some warning about the ferocity of such downpours?
Well, during yesterday we were concerned about the possibility of heavy rainfall along parts of the New South Wales coast, including Sydney and Wollongong, and we did issue advices within the forecasts that we were expecting some heavy rainfalls. However, to predict such intense rainfall over such a small area is very difficult indeed to predict.
Parts of the Illawarra copped 3 months' rain in 24 hours. How are the rainfall statistics shaping up?
Well, in Wollongong itself, so far this month, we've recorded 622 millimetres of rain, and that compares to an average for August of about 72.5 millimetres, so we're well above the monthly average. And in fact, that 622 millimetres is the highest ever recorded in Wollongong during August.
Well, thank you very much for your time. Peter Dunda from the Weather Bureau.
In other news,
our special coverage tonight begins with the onslaught of heavy rains which battered the area late yesterday. Chris Ricky reports.
The northern suburbs were the first to feel the effects of the heavy rains. A creek in Woonona burst its banks late yesterday afternoon, residents moving immediately into damage control mode.
Yeah, it's about 4 inches in my mother-in-law's downstairs.
The full impact of the flood was still to come. As darkness fell, the torrential rain continued. Emergency services rushed into Corrimal after a report of a woman trapped inside her car. She made it to safety. Police, taking no chances, decided to evacuate the entire area house by house as the water continued to rise. Both Bulli Pass and Mount Ousley were completely cut off.
It's just after 8 o'clock and the northbound lane of the freeway has become a raging river. The torrent stopping all traffic.
Yeah, I've never seen rain like this ever before in my life. I come from New Zealand, over here for 7 days, and when I left, someone told me that it doesn't rain in Aussie.
I just came back here to see if those guys were okay back there, and then they said they were stuck, and then the next thing we knew, we were stuck as well, so we couldn't go anywhere either.
At 8:15, tragedy struck in Bellambi. A 71-year-old local man drowned inside his sports car after 2 metres of water washed across Brompton Road. Attempts to reach the trapped man failed. Inquiries are continuing. These stores at the bottom end of Kira Street in North Wollongong swamped with almost 1 metre of water.
At this stage, no one knows how much rain has fallen on Wollongong and the outlying suburbs, but many residents who were spoken to tonight say it's the worst they've seen in many, many years.
Locals on foot attempted to negotiate the fast-flowing torrent. Four-wheel drives and emergency service vehicles ferrying people and equipment to various trouble spots. One of those trouble spots, Fig Tree.
Yeah, don't go across, we've got the police coming over with a rope.
Residents and police working shoulder to shoulder to get people to safety. Senior Constable Aaron Peary braving the fast-flowing current not once, but 3 times to reach this family. Once on dry land, he waded back into the murky water to check on another group of residents trapped inside their home. Tow truck drivers armed with ropes, ensuring the officer wasn't swept away. The police themselves also required assistance from time to time. Throughout Fig Tree, the force of the water could be seen. Cars picked up and smashed like toys. Residents weren't the only ones affected. A series of landslides and rock falls completely cutting off Lawrence Hargrave Drive at Stanwell Tops. Incredibly, as quickly as the water rose, it subsided. By midnight, the worst of the flooding had eased. The destruction, however, remained. Staff at the Cabbage Tree Hotel faced a mammoth clean-up.
Straight through the doors, in through here, just like a river.
A giant freezer thrown against an awning, collapsing it. Inside the hotel, a sea of mud. Stock destroyed, equipment smashed. Inside Corrimal's Shopping World complex, the water level was still high at 3 a.m. Every store affected. Thousands of dollars worth of stock and shop fittings left floating in the murky water. Chris Rickey, Prime Local News.
And late this afternoon, police released the name of the 71-year-old victim of the floods. He was John Thompson of Bellambi. Meantime, Illawarra commuters have been left stranded as the flooding caused dozens of landslides along the southbound track. The worst hit was the northern suburbs, where at Culcliff the track collapsed, leaving a 20-metre gap. Jodie Duffy reports.
This is the reason why there are no trains today. In 1991, this same site was subject to a landslide, but nowhere near as bad as this. The torrents of water leaving a 20-metre hole under the line, the track left sagging above. Neighbours say they heard the roar as dozens of boulders hurled down the escarpment, many ending up on the road below. But neighbours say the real concern was last night when a southbound train with passengers on board made its way over this track after the subsidence.
Now this was at about 7:30, 8 o'clock last night, where it was pitch black, and I don't know whether they had any idea of the size of the damage that had been done.
I did have fear for the people who were in that train that was stuck there, and they did take that train south after that huge great hole had occurred.
A State Rail employee said the train proceeded with caution a few metres from the landslide. At Wombara, work is already underway on damage caused by the flash flooding. This is the same site where the Wombara tunnel was to be built. And at Ostermere, neighbours watched on as mud and rock slid from beneath the track, landing dangerously close to their homes.
Well, we just had an awful lot of rain in a very short time, and things seemed all right when we went to bed, and when we got up this morning there was a big mudslide in the backyard.
We'd planted some really nice plants just a few days ago, and all gone. And the roar of the water is just amazing. Dear me. Had to be seen to be believed.
State Rail says it will be some time before the track is repaired, although limited commuter services are expected to be available during peak hours using the Western Track. Jodie Duffy, Prime Local News.
And from tomorrow morning, a limited rail service will resume from Wollongong to Sydney only, while buses will operate in the southbound direction. For timetable information, the number to ring is 131 500. The State Premier and Emergency Services Minister have toured one of the worst affected areas to witness the devastation of the floods for themselves.
Bob Carr arrived in Wollongong this morning, first for a briefing by police and other emergency services. Then it was off to Fairy Meadow with the Emergency Services Minister and Wollongong's Lord Mayor. Residents told the Premier about the horror of the rising waters, which caused extensive damage to their homes.
How quickly did it hit you? 5 minutes. 5 minutes from ground level up to here. We just got the dogs.
During his tour, the Premier commended all those who helped out during the crisis.
There are 30 SES units and 25 of them are from outside Wollongong, and that speaks volumes of praise for how the emergency plan has worked.
This is a most extraordinary rainfall, and as I say, it's believed to be the sort of event you would expect once every 300 years.
The Premier has pledged disaster relief funding will be made available to the region. That'll include grants to council for the restoration of essential services and low-interest loans of up to $80,000 each for small businesses.
We will pay for the new flooring and the bedding and any equipment that's been destroyed.
Mr Carr also promised the residents assessors will visit their homes to determine what assistance they require. Ravenna Carroll, Prime Local News.
Every available emergency service officer has been involved in the flood response. With resources stretched to breaking limit, many rescuers performed above and beyond the call of duty.
I could only classify the night probably as one of the most horrendous that we've had for many, many years.
Police, ambulance, fire brigade, SES, all exhausted today after last night's massive effort. Armed with little more than a torch and a raincoat, Dozens of officers battled driving rain, freezing temperatures, traffic jams and rising floodwater.
We had a number of police injured in relation to motor vehicle collision. We had some police also involved in rescues were slightly injured, but then again, many emergency services the same.
For the dozens of SES teams activated during the emergency, their movements were controlled from the operations room at state headquarters in Wollongong. Emergency numbers have now been set up for residents requiring further assistance. The State Emergency Service can be contacted on 422 62444. Chris Ricky, Prime Local News.
Welfare organisations have also been flat out helping residents who were forced from their homes during the night. Some lost almost everything they owned.
This scene at the Corrimal Bowling Club highlights the community spirit that has shone through the bleakness of this disaster. Salvation Army officers hand out food while Red Cross volunteers counsel people whose homes were ravaged by floodwaters.
We're actively involved all over the Illawarra, trying to make sure there's enough food around for people to be able to be fed.
This woman lost 95% of her belongings.
Yeah, they've been great assistance. Yeah, they helped us with food and accommodation and with formula and things like that for the kids and that. But yeah, the only thing I could say to them is just thank you.
The Department of Community Services is also providing assistance. The Recovery Centre number is 422 68410. Meanwhile, Wollongong City Mission has established a national donation hotline to help those affected. That number 1800 640 250.
We have staff on hand down here to take cash, food or clothing donations as well.
The Lord Mayor has also launched a relief fund. Donations can be made through the IMB and Commonwealth Bank. Ravenna Carroll, Prime Local News.
As heroic stories begin to surface from last night's disaster, investigating reports of looting.
The Cabbage Tree Hotel not only suffered massive damage and the loss of thousands of dollars worth of stock, but the owners also fell victim to looters. As staff were battling rising floodwaters, thieves helped themselves to wine and beer. Police have already recovered a bin full of alcohol left abandoned near the hotel.
But we're very lucky because I have my husband and my son here. There's so many people so worse off than us, and people are doing it to their house too. Yeah, it's very sad. But it is, it's annoying to think people can take advantage of you.
Both the police and the community are disgusted with the crime.
The police reaction to looting, you know, is, I suppose it can be considered the lowest of the low.
Chris Ricky, Prime Local News.
Coming up after the break, the massive clean-up begins as Wollongong reels from the flooding and more resistance to the One Nation Party in the Illawarra.
And they've just finished up down here towards East Beach somewhere. Incredible, absolutely incredible. They're about 25 tonnes each, and one's just here and the other one's the other side of the northern distributor, about 200 metres away. Unbelievable.
Inside, the club's been gutted. There's millions of dollars damage, both patrons and management devastated.
One of our poker machine patrons came through this door to go to the toilet and thought he was in a fish bowl. The water was halfway up the windows out to the bowling area.
The Princess Highway got a hammering. One man thought he'd hit the jackpot, discovering a bottle of wine underneath the rubble, while nearby crews tried to prevent an oil spill seeping into stormwater drains. To the north, and shop owners began the massive task of cleaning up the mess. At Rutty's Real Estate, furniture had to be removed, while residents inspected the debris left at Hewlett's Creek. At Fig Tree's Westville Shopping Centre, the big clean-up's also underway. It too has suffered massive flood damage. The centre won't be open until Thursday. Jodie Duffy, Prime Local News.
Trapped in his car. More than 300 people were evacuated from 2 caravan parks as water levels continued to rise.
All we can see is water, water, water. I was one of the lucky ones living down the back there. It hasn't gone inside my van yet, but they say very shortly it will do. So we've got no choice, we have to get out.
Australia.
Meanwhile, devastated Illawarra residents have the insurance companies in their sights. They claim they're getting a rough deal, as millions of dollars worth of claims are lodged.
For many in Wollongong, the heartache is far from receding. Lee Danevsky has lost everything.
Kids' room is all ruined, all the kids' clothes, their bed, the toys.
Desperate to rebuild his life, Lee called his insurance company to inspect the damage, only to be told they were too busy.
Well, they've told us they won't cover for this sort of situation, so if the government doesn't come out to our assistance, well then, you know, we're basically ruined. Someone's got to help the little battler out somewhere along the line, you know.
To end the confusion, the Insurance Council has placed advertisements saying damage caused by stormwater runoff or blocked drains is covered, while flooding from creeks is not. But insurers won't say how many claims are likely to be paid out.
The insurers and the assessors are dealing with them very quickly and in a very sympathetic manner, and hopefully that they will be able to have an answer fairly quickly in relation to their loss.
If they can't get compensation through insurance companies or the disaster relief program, some residents plan to sue the council, which they say is partly to blame. At issue, a drainage system which couldn't cope with the stormwater and new houses built on floodplains.
And they were warned that this was a disaster about to happen, and the disaster now has happened. So now it's time for some justice.
The council plans to reassess all drainage, but says no one could have predicted such freak weather. Tracy Spicer, 10 News.
A man who abducted...
Called upon the insurance industry to fulfil its moral obligation to residents affected in this week's floods.
A suburban street that resembles a war zone. Sir William Dean today witnessed the...
So save Michael.
The residents are still trying to salvage whatever they can.
The Governor-General has joined the growing list of prominent Australians urging insurance companies to take a compassionate and flexible approach to claims from flood victims.
If people took out insurance without being very carefully warned about the limits of their cover, the insurance companies have an extent of moral obligation.
Ravenna Carroll, Prime Local News.
Well, the Governor-General's pleas fell on deaf ears today, with two major insurers standing firm on decisions not to pay claims. Jodie Duffy reports.
For 18 years, pensioner Kay Earl has gone without to pay her NRMA home insurance. She's never made a claim. Now when she needs it the most, the insurer, it seems, won't pay up. It doesn't have to. Kay's policy excludes floods.
I'm just one of the little fish. I'm not claiming great big mounds of furniture. And I'm an age pensioner. And I've only got a little bit of furniture. And they're just... I've never made a claim, so why wouldn't they want to pay me?
The NRMA delivered the grim news this morning.
And I said to him this morning, if I lose that, I've lost everything. I've got nothing.
The NRMA says it's statewide practice not to pay out flood victims, that it'll be making no exception this time.
The current situation with flood under the policy is that it's not covered. This is what we will apply.
The NRMA has approved 20 storm damage claims. Other claims will be individually assessed by a flood panel.
To include flood in-home policies would mean that policies for people in flood-prone areas would be unnecessarily prohibitive in the order of around $2,200.
And there's been a similar response for GIO.
For those people who live next to the creek and acknowledge that the creek overflowed, it would appear almost certain that that would be a flood and it's not covered under the insurance.
Wollongong Legal Aid is offering free legal advice for flood victims on Monday, so even if your insurer does reject your claim, you still may have a fighting chance. Jodie Duffy, Prime Local News.
While Wollongong is still trying to come to terms with the tragedy, reporter Chris Rickey takes a look at the week that was.
Monday afternoon, northern suburbs residents the first to feel the effects of 2 days of solid rain.
Yeah, it's about 4 inches in my mother-in-law's house.
Once darkness fell, the full impact of the storm hit. A creek in Corrimal bursting its banks and sparking mass evacuations. There was major drama on the roads as the rain continued to beat down. The freeway at the base of Mount Ousley, one of the worst affected.
It's just after 8 o'clock and the northbound lane of the freeway has become a raging river. The torrent stopping all traffic.
Yeah, I've never seen rain like this ever before in my life.
I just came back here to see if those guys were okay back there, and then they said they were stuck, and then the next thing we knew we were stuck as well, so we couldn't go anywhere either.
At 8:15, tragedy struck in Bellambi, a 71-year-old man drowning inside his sports car. These shops in North Wollongong swamped with almost 1 metre of water. Retailers didn't even have time to sandbag. In the suburb of Fig Tree, major problems. Emergency services personnel heroes as they braved raging torrents to reach stranded families. Cars picked up and smashed like toys. Vehicles washed into drains, creeks and rivers. The next day, with rain still falling, hundreds of people went back to their homes. The Cabbage Tree Hotel not only suffered incredible damage, but fell victim to looters.
There's so many people so worse off than us, and people are doing it to their house too. Yeah, it's very sad.
The police reaction to looting, you know, is, I suppose it can be considered the lowest of the low.
The damage bill at the fraternity club in excess of $1 million.
One of our poker machine patrons came through this door to go to the toilet and thought he was in a fish bowl.
Premier Bob Carr declaring Wollongong a natural disaster area.
We will pay for the new flooring and the bedding and any equipment that's been destroyed.
If the flash floods weren't enough, on Wednesday night a landslide forced the evacuation of 130 Mount Campbell families.
My daughter came and walked me and said, "Mum, get dressed quickly. We've got to go. There's a landslide coming down the mountain."
As the clean-up continues, anxious eyes are watching the sky for more heavy rain, which is predicted for the weekend. Chris Ricky, Prime Local News.
The Catholic Church is expecting the emotional trauma of the floods to become evident over the coming months. Today, parishioners gathered to pray.
A special service in St Francis Xavier's Cathedral to support a community which has faced terrible tests and tragedy over the past few days.
Today we bring before God the two people who lost their lives. We pray also for the thousands who are suffering trauma as they try and put their lives together again in a very, very slow manner.
The Catholic Church has pledged to support the community through the recovery period, during which the emotional side of the disaster is expected to become evident. Like so many others, Father Stork has thanked those who've shown true community spirit, from police to rescue volunteers and even ordinary citizens.
They, quite achievers I suppose, people who normally, wouldn't really notice, quite achievers became heroes as they battled to assist other people caught in a quandary.
The church is calling on the community to continue to pray for those affected by the floods. Ravenna Carroll, Prime Local News.
Meantime, family and friends gathered at Bulli today for the funeral service of 71-year-old John Thompson. Mr Thompson died on Monday night when his car was trapped in floodwaters at Bellambi. Following 2 days of sunshine, all major roads in the Illawarra are now open. RTA engineers are now surveying the damage.
The notorious Bulli Pass was one of the first roads to be closed following flash flooding. It also suffered the worst damage, mini landslips spreading debris across 2 lanes. The repair bill, $1.5 million. The pass has now been reopened, but drivers are being urged to exercise extreme caution.
There will be some congestion, unfortunately. With only one lane operating, they should avoid the area if they can. The other thing is that we're still repairing slips on Mount Uzi Road, on Bulli Pass I should say, and we'd like the trucks are 5 tonne and over to avoid the area altogether.
Despite the amount of water that washed through the region, roads have survived relatively intact.
So at the end of the day, we didn't get very much damage on the road network as a whole.
Meantime, the RTA has come under attack by a group of Kirraville residents. They believe these concrete sound barriers were installed without sufficient curb and guttering. Class action is now being considered. Chris Ricky, Prime Local News.
Now, problems in Wollongong have brought out the best in people statewide. This is a great story. In Gunnedah, fellow flood victims have set up an appeal and are now collecting household goods.
Estimates of the devastation caused by flash flooding at Wollongong this week have reached tens of millions of dollars. Hundreds of families evacuated from their homes as the worst of the floodwaters hit, returning to find their belongings strewn, homes destroyed and cars carried off and dumped by the deluge. The town of Gunnedah suffered a similar but less devastating fate last month. Local residents now rallying to the aid of the people of Wollongong, setting up a non-monetary appeal for those affected by the recent floods.
We didn't have as much damage they got. We didn't lose as much as they have. I think people will learn a lot more because they lost cars and houses. Well, no fault. At least we know that we're in a flood zone.
Set up in a vacant building, the collection isn't great so far, but Mr Pasterski is confident by the end of the week they'll have a truckload of blankets, clothes and other essentials.
So I know it is to lose everything. They have nothing, and I thought it'd be good just for a little town to say that we can support them with something, maybe a chair or a bed or some clothes or something that they can still put on their kids until they get their feet back in the ground.
What's also still needed is transport for the goods to Wollongong. Anyone able to assist can contact the appeal on 02 67 422 668. Kelly Blouse, Prime Local News.
And coming up after the break in Prime Local News, the estranged former de facto of Beak.
As emergency service workers and residents continue the big clean-up.
Back-breaking work and hard-breaking work. We'll get there.
Canberra says it will reimburse the state government for some of the money it spends on disaster relief.